poor credit scores, and when we're not able to, you know, manage our credit and things like that. Another thing as well within like the racial wealth gap is predatory lending. So it's like you kind of want to be in denial, like, you know, no, there's no such thing as predatory lending. It's like you don't want to acknowledge it, but it really is a real thing. Like African Americans, we are targeted when it comes to lending, right? You can find a payday loan spot on every corner in the hood. And this is just like to keep us in these cycles of poverty. You might know some people within your family or friends that will obtain a payday loan to pay for their kids' Christmas before we get it to pay a bill, right? Or before we get it to pay for something that we really, really, really do need, okay? And then when we do get approved for that credit, it can be at much higher interest rates and terms and conditions that makes it almost impossible for us to get ahead. For example, like with the payday interest loans, those rates are usually like 300% and up, you know, so you're paying quadruple the amount of the loan overall. And the terms are usually, you know, ridiculous. So there is a such thing as interest rate discrimination. I still don't want to believe it, but there is. A lack of credit and financial education. So when it comes to just those two things, we're not taught that, right? We're really not taught that in schools. We're really not taught that in our families. And if you did have a family that did teach you about, you know, being financially responsible, taught you about credit, then you're lucky, because majority of us were not taught about that. You know, I had to learn on my own several years ago when I started repairing my own credit because I wanted to put me and my child in you know, a better situation. We usually in our families just repeat those cycles. When we're freshmen in college, that's usually when most of us get our first credit card. And what do? We get a credit card, we run it up. If you're in Edinboro, you got your first credit card, you was at John's taking trips to Mill Creek Mall or Erie Mall. You know, we took our credit cards and we ran it up. I know I did. I took my credit card, I ran it up. I got a refund check, I blew it up. So we're not really, you know, taught about that. And then we also receive student loans and stuff like that, you know, at higher rates than white Americans. They're often encouraged to, you know, like save for their children going to college. Our families, we don't do that. And it's not entirely our fault. Like, this is just systemic poverty. This is, you know, racism, discrimination that leads to us making these decisions. As we become adults, we can be educated on how to improve these circumstances and, you know, to no longer continue these cycles, but it's not, you know, entirely our fault. A big thing with credit is also avoidance. Like, we will avoid credit until we need our credit. So most of my clients have avoided their credit scores until they want to get a new car or they wanted to buy a house. And then by the time they look at it, it's like they have collections and, you know, there's just inaccurate and derogatory items all throughout their report. Their scores are you know, pretty low. And then, as we know, systemic poverty, that is just, that's nothing new. That's nothing new. You know, our history, starting from slavery, then being, you know, sold into this American dream and just really trying to obtain this dream, but having cycles of oppression to, you know, like just hold us down while we're trying to obtain, you know, this dream. And then with poverty, it being the economic and social exclusion of our people, it's just, it's hard. It's hard. So that also affects our credit because we're not getting those jobs. We're not getting those resources. Like with poverty, there's the hoarding of resources, you know, there's the social oppression, the institutional racism that all contributes to the racial wealth gap, which also just contributes to us just not managing our credit well. It all ties into each other. When we graduate from college, we think we're going to get these jobs, these great paying jobs, and some of us might go on to really get these jobs. But then what are we hit with? What are we hit with? Student loans. I don't know if anybody said it, but we're hit with student loans. So we get these jobs, we're on our way, we're trying to get this American dream. We get the house, the white picket fence, the kids, the dog. The dog needs food. The kid needs food. The kid's growing, the dog's growing. We're fighting for this. We got student loans chasing us down, paying $300, $400, $500 a month for student loans. That leaves very little money for us to even pay towards our credit debt, or that leaves us relying more on our credit debt. Okay. When it comes to like redlining, there was an investigation by the National Fair Housing Alliance. It's a Washington, D.C. based nonprofit. They found that 60% of the time, applicants who were people of color and way more financially qualified than their white counterparts, nevertheless were offered higher priced car loans, costing them an extra $2,662 each over the course of the loan. And this was something that Senator Bernie Sanders was trying to fight for, which was to introduce the Loan Shark Prevention Act to combat the predatory lending practices of the big banks and protect consumers who were already burdened with exorbitant credit card interest rates. So all of this, I said all of that to say all of this pretty much ties into us and our credit and our credit debt, and just seeking credit not being approved, or how we deal with credit, period. There really is like a trauma-like response when it comes to African Americans and credit, because when we do check our credit, we oftentimes find, a family member used our name and got some things, and ruined our credit. So that avoidance is real. Like that is definitely real. However, you do have rights, right? You have rights as a consumer, okay? And there are laws that protect you. So I'm just going to go over a few of the laws. There is the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act. So with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it promotes accuracy and privacy of the information in your credit files, okay? You have the right under the Fair Credit Reporting Act to receive a copy of your credit report. The copy of your credit report must contain all the information in your file at the time of request. So I just want you to pay attention to this, because this is important. They made these laws to give consumers rights, okay? Each of the nationwide credit reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and the others that are not so common, is required to provide you with a free copy of your credit report at your request once every 12 months. However, because of the CARES Act, I think it has been changed to either once a week or once a month. So with COVID and everything happening, you can get your actual credit report and check it online more frequently than just, the once every 12 months. Also, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act of federal law, you're also entitled to a free report if a company takes adverse action against you, like denying your application for credit, insurance, or employment. And you had to have asked for it within 60 days. Like I said, that has changed. The notice will give you the name, the address, and the phone number of the credit reporting agency. The other one is the Equal Credit Act, which prohibits credit discrimination. However, we just talked about this. It prohibits credit discrimination of the basis of sex, race, marital status, religion, national origin, age, or receipt of public assistance. Creditors may ask for this information, except religion in certain situations, but they may not use it to discriminate against you when deciding whether to grant you credit. Now, this is important because you can exercise these rights as consumers. Under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, like I said, you cannot be denied based on your race, sex, marital status, religion. But we know, like I just mentioned, those things have happened, okay? You have the right to have reliable public assistance considered in the same manner as other income under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. If you are denied credit, you have a legal right to know why, okay? The next one is the Fair Credit Billing Act, which is the FCBA, and the Electronic Funds Transfer Act. Those are established procedures for resolving mistakes on your credit. Billing and Electronic Funds Transfer Act. On your credit statements, if there are charges or if anyone has been authorized to use your account, you have the right to inquire about that if it was not made by you. Any charges or electric funds transfers that are incorrectly identified or show the wrong date or amount, any math errors, any failure to post payments, credits, or electronic funds transferred properly, failure to send your bills to your current address, provided the creditor receives your change of address in writing at least 20 days before the billing period ends. Any charges or electronic funds transfer for which you ask for an explanation or written proof of purchase along with a claim, error, or request for clarification. So the FCBA, the Fair Credit Billing Act, it generally applies to open-ended credit accounts, credit cards, revolving charge accounts like department store accounts. These are your rights. It does not apply to loans or credit sales that are paid on a fixed schedule, okay? So like a car loan, it doesn't apply to those. There is also the FDCPA. Now, this applies to personal, family, and household debts, okay? The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, it prohibits debt collectors from using abusive, unfair, or deceptive practices to collect a debt from you. They cannot call you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m., okay? They cannot seek out your family for your information. They cannot call your spouse. They cannot call your child. They cannot call your job. And these credit collection agencies, they will practice these type of things. But if you don't know your rights, then you don't know that they're in violation. And for every violation they do, that's like $1,000 or $1,500 that you could win in court. So if they're calling you before 8 a.m., if they're calling you after 9 p.m., if they're threatening you, which I know a lot of credit or collection agencies have a history of threatening people, that is a violation. They are totally in violation. They cannot call your spouse and ask for you. They cannot reveal information about your credit report. Like, you have these laws to challenge them on this information, and you should use it, okay? I didn't put this on here, but I want to talk about the CARES Act because we are in this COVID-19 era, this pandemic. The CARES Act was created. So it's the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. It's like 880 pages, and there's a dozen of those pages that do apply to credit repair. It's like the law now, right? It's kind of like the law. With the CARES Act, it allows you as a consumer to have accommodations with your payment deferrals, partial payments on loans, any contracts, or waive late fees. So it allows you to have relief or assistance if you are impacted by the pandemic. Now, if you're current on your credit card accounts, okay, and then you can't make a payment because you're affected by the pandemic, you lost your job, or you're working less hours, they are not supposed to report you as derogatory, okay? Your account is still supposed to be reported current. That's also why they said that you should check your report, or they're giving you more time frequently to check your report and get free credit reports, because you should be checking this information. So if you entered into a specific like COVID-19 deferred agreement or stated that you needed accommodations because you were affected by the pandemic, your account should be reported current. So if your payment is due today and you can't make this payment for a month, you are not to be reported late. You're supposed to still be reported current on your account, okay? As long as you live up to your part of the agreement, then they have to report you as paid as agreed on time, even if you have not made that payment. Okay. Now, I'm sorry, not if you haven't made that payment. Even if you haven't made that payment by the due date, you have to make that payment because you have to, stand up to your side of the agreement. This also affects like student loan forbearance. It has been automatic with the CARES Act. There are also certain no, I'm not going to get too deep in that, but there's certain codes that go on your credit report that should show that you're in these agreements or you have these payment arrangements based on the CARES Act. Now, if you were charged off or you had a collection and you were already derogatory, you cannot dispute that and say that you need like a COVID plan or you need a COVID accommodation. They're going to continue to report you as derogatory because you were in that status before the CARES Act went into effect. So let's talk about credit repair, okay? So how can credit repair help? How can my company help? And I'm not saying this to try to sell you or anything like that. My company, another credit repair company, or whatever. Specifically my company, we can help because what we can do is utilize the laws, our knowledge of these laws, to help dispute derogatory, negative, and inaccurate items on your credit report. So we also study the behavior of lenders. So we pretty much know what a lender is looking for, how to package you up pretty to get that approval, to get that mortgage, to build your credit so that you can get a new car, okay? That's what credit repair agencies do, specifically mine. However, we also have our law, so we're regulated as well. So we cannot guarantee you any results. If any credit repair agency or any agency you've dealt with in the past has guaranteed that they'll fix your score within 60 days or 3 weeks, that's illegal. They can't do that. We cannot charge you up front either for credit repair. So I can't say, hey, give me $500, I'm gonna wipe your score clean. I'm in violation, okay? So also with like the credit restoration process, it takes time. I have clients who've gotten results within 2 months of the program, up to clients who it takes 12 months. Okay, it really depends on what's on your credit profile, because this data is collected. Like, it's collected with so much information, and they compile it in such a way, like it's not the same process for everyone when you're trying to repair your credit. It may have taken you 6 years to get yourself into a hole with your credit. It's not going to take you 30 days to get out of that hole. There are rebucketing ways that lenders use to put you in different categories in regards to your credit. And once you start making progress, so you can go from like a 680 to 700, then they'll rebucket you and they'll put you in a different category with people who have 700 credit scores, but they might have had a late payment. And then say you wipe all your late payments off, then they put you in a different category. So there's so much with the data collection on your credit profiles. You can possibly help yourself. You can do it yourself. Like I said, I did it in the beginning. But having an agency or seeking a consultant to assist you is definitely the way to go. So do your research. How can you help yourself? So things that boost your credit score: have your open accounts that you do have in good standing. That means having, pay your bills. Make sure that you make your payments. Most people that don't really pay attention to their credit, they don't pay attention to that minimum payment. They just keep letting it build up and build up and build up. Whatever you do, if you have a credit card, pay your minimum payment, because a late payment, if you remember, it's 30% of your score, 35%. It can drop your score. When you have one late payment, it can drop your score up to 100 points. Going into a derogatory status can drop your score. So when I'm assisting my clients and we're working to get inaccurate items removed off their credit report, we're also credit building at the same time. And that's how my clients are able to see credit score increases of 200 points and, 300 points over the length of the program or within a short period of time, because we're building as well as attacking those derogatory items. Reducing your debt balance is also another thing. Diversify your accounts, like I had mentioned, having a mix of credit. I also work with my clients through that as well. So we're going to add, revolving credit accounts that are retail accounts, and then we're going to add some secured cards, and then we're going to add certificate of deposit accounts that you have to pay on to help boost your credit. And like that last thing says, get rid of the negative information on your report. What my company does is factual disputing. So that's literally taking your credit report, looking at the information, making sure that it's clear, consistent, and accurate. Because remember, by law, by the FCRA, the information on your credit report has to be accurate. If they cannot validate that information or verify it within a 30-day time frame, they have 30 days to review any investigations. They, by law, have to remove it, okay? So if you have a negative account on your credit report and the account number's wrong, and you send in a letter saying, hey, I was looking at my credit report and I show that this account number does not match up. I need you to validate this. And they can't validate it. They don't know where this account number came from. They're like, okay, whatever. We don't know, it's reporting differently between all three of the credit reporting agencies by law. They have to remove that account, okay? When you get accounts removed from your credit report, it does not mean that you no longer owe that debt. Legally, you'll always owe the debt. It just means that it's no longer affecting your credit, okay? So when a mortgage lender or a car loan salesman pulls your report, it will no longer affect your report once it's removed. It's like it never existed. But you owe that debt, okay? So these are the things that, can help you to boost your credit. That's all that I have for you guys tonight. I'm going to answer some of these questions if I can see them. I hope I wasn't talking too fast.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you. Did you want me to read them to you?
Sure. Wait, I'm trying to get my screen back here. Okay, hold on. You can read them. You can.
Okay. The first question is, and I think you kind of touched on this, do credit bureaus still redline?
So I'm going to drop some information on y'all when it comes to these credit bureaus. It's not people at the credit bureaus. So that's why I said they're not the ones redlining, it's the lenders who redline. Credit bureaus, I gotta stop saying bureaus because they're not bureaus. The credit reporting agencies, they're data furnishers. They compile the data on your report. And it's not people, it's literally machines. So when you're writing dispute letters, you're writing it to a machine. And there's a reason why most people, when they try to repair their own credit, they start to get letters that state we're no longer investigating this, or we gave you an answer, or a frivolous letter saying, we're not investigating your account. Because when you write these letters, they're going into a system, and then that system recognizes certain language, and then it sends out a response. So like my company, what we do, we're able to, we know the codes and we know the language to get through that system so that we don't receive those frivolous letters stating that they're no longer investigating accounts, or, because by law they have to investigate this. But we know how to get in there and infiltrate that. So it's not the data furnishers, the credit reporting agencies, it's not Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion that are redlining. That comes from the lenders. Okay, and the lenders are the people that grant the credit. So the banks or wherever, Capital One. If you're going to get a mortgage, you're going to that bank. Those are the ones who have the history of redlining, not the credit reporting agencies.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. The next question is it best to close credit accounts that you haven't used in years?
No. do not close that credit account because it affects your overall utilization, and it can lower your utilization. I'm sorry, it can raise your utilization if you're closing an account that has, like an established balance on it. Also, it affects your credit history when you close it. So I don't recommend closing accounts. I do want to say that companies, like a lot of retail store cards, have been closing accounts during this pandemic. So Community Bank and Synchrony Bank, they have been closing a lot of accounts, or checking your scores more, doing soft credit checks, and lowering your credit limit. So pay attention to that. That's why it's important to pull your credit report using Identity IQ, Smart Credit, Experian. Just look at the information on your credit report and pay attention to it to see if any lenders have closed your account. But as a consumer, I don't recommend that you close an account on your own. No.
Okay. When purchasing an auto loan, do they just look at the auto credit?
Yes, they just look at the auto scores.
Okay. How long does public record stay on your file?
So it depends on what the public record is. Yeah, it depends on what the public record is.
Okay. What happens when you have no established credit?
Having no established credit is like having bad credit. When you don't have any established credit, like I said, this data, they have nothing to judge you by. So no credit is the same as bad credit, but you want to begin to establish that credit by either becoming an authorized user on a card of someone like in your family who has good credit history, low balances. They can add you as an authorized user to their card. That does not mean that they have to give you a card. It just means that you'll inherit that positive credit history. So, but you also inherit the bad too. So you don't want to be like, hey, sis, add me as an authorized user, and your sister over here just splurging. You want to be added to a card of someone who is, has low utilization, has good positive credit history. I recommend my clients add their children to their card. So when my daughter gets about, I'll probably do it at like 16 or maybe even younger, 12. I know some people have added their kids to their card at like 12. Doesn't give them a card, but it helps build that history. So by the time she graduates, high school, she's coming out of high school with like a 780 credit score. That's like almost better than the diploma that she's going to get. So you want to add credit history. You want to start with a secure card or like self-lender. You want to start with those items, secure card, to begin to build that credit history. And there's secure cards with other companies too, like Discover, Capital One. I recommend Credit Builder secure card because it doesn't, go by your credit or anything. It helps you put the money down. With all secure cards, you invest in it, you put the money into it. So the credit limit that you want, you'll put that money down, and then you build that way.
Awesome. If an account is closed and has a debt, does paying off that increase your score?
If an account is closed and it has a debt. So there are two ways to go about that. Like I had mentioned, this is not legal advice. If you said, okay, I don't want to pay this debt, you can dispute it for removal. You can try to dispute it for removal based on any inaccuracies or on the account across the credit bureaus. If it's closed, yeah, you still do owe the debt, or you can pay it. But the only way to get that debt removed from your credit report is to have a pay for deletion letter sent. Collection agencies, or if you owe a debt, like with a collection agency, they do not have to legally remove that debt unless you have a pay for delete agreement with them. So paying a debt off when it's closed or derogatory, it is still a derogatory debt. It will still negatively impact your credit report. You may see an increase if you pay it off, and then the status is updated. So you're no longer derogatory, it's paid. I do have clients who have seen some increases with paying on those debts. I've also seen clients who have seen some increases with getting those debts removed.
Okay,
Does that answer that question?
I think so. What is a trade line and how does it help to boost your credit score?
So a trade line is just a line of credit onto your account. That's your store card or your revolving credit card. That's pretty much what it is. It's just like a positive, well, no, some can be negative, but it's just a trade line on your account. And like I mentioned, it helps boost your credit because it's showing that it's helping you establish credit and credit history. If you get a secure card, you start with that, or if you are added as an authorized user, that's also a trade line. It's just a line of credit that is on your account.
It says you mentioned issuers report credit. What are they reporting?
I don't understand the question. What issuers? Like credit card issuers?
Ms. Spence, can you elaborate more on that? She said insurance companies.
So they can report any information that they receive, like they're reporting your address, your name. If you don't pay, they report that. If it's sent to a collection agency, they report that.
Okay. Let's see here. Is it true consolidating school loans can negatively affect credit?
You know, I want to say that is not true. It's hit or miss. Like some people do recommend consolidation, which it can help. I've seen it help because I've had clients who've consolidated, and I've seen it help because they were, in a derogatory status with their student loan. So I want to say that's not true.
Okay. If a college loses its accreditation, can the loans associated with it be removed from your credit report?
That's a great question. So I'll go back to say this. Anything on your credit report can be removed if it is not if it is inaccurate, if it is like inconsistent, it can be removed by law. They have to remove it. So it really doesn't even have to do with accreditation or anything. You can dispute it for removal based on the information that's on the actual report. You don't even have to go that far into like get the college no longer has accreditation, yada, 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 remove these loans. You don't even have to go that far into it because you're asking the credit reporting agencies to validate this information. And if there's no college, they can't contact that college to validate that information, then by law, they have to remove it.
Wow. The last question that I have here is, if you pay your auto loan out completely and wait a period of time before applying for another, like a home loan, although paid, would it still reflect any previous late payments that was on that account when it was active?
Yes, it would. So in that case, if you are trying to get a mortgage, you want to send goodwill letters to accounts that you have that have late payments or derogatory status. A goodwill letter is just a letter like pretty much pleading your case, asking for them to remove those late payments because you've been like a model client, or you've had a hard time, late payments. Like you're pretty much just telling them your story and asking them as goodwill to remove those late payments. Those letters do work. However, it's not a legal thing. by law, they don't have to remove those late payments. It's just like a courtesy, you know, hey, I'm trying to apply for a home for my family. I've been with this company for X amount of years. I've always been, you know, on time with my payments, but I just hit a rough patch. My mom was in the hospital, my cat got ran over, whatever. You want to pretty much share your story and let them know, like, hey, can you remove these late payments?
Hey, awesome. Well, I do want to thank everybody for attending this workshop. Before everyone leaves for the evening, like we posted, we do want to give away to 4 individuals who registered for the meeting. We do want to give free credit services through Latrice. And so we are going to do that now. And I decided the best way to probably do this is to share my screen and do a random generator. Let me just pull it back up. We had 33 people register for it. So I'm gonna go through and select, I put it in already. If I can find, share my screen. Yes. All right. Let's see. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to hit the generate button and then I will call out the number. All right. And I'm sorry, we had 32 people. The first one is just a blanket name. So that's why it's on number 1. So the first person that will receive the credit services is a person who does not need credit services. So I'm going to hit the generate button again. Oh, wow. Okay. So the next person is Natasha Knight. And
Congratulations, Natasha, if she's on here.
Yes, and I will be forwarding your information over to Latrice and be having some additional dialogue with you, just what is expected of you in this time. Aries Black Wall Street will get very, very limited information. We just ask that you share what your starting score is and what your end score is at the end of the 6 months that you have with Latrice. Okay, so Natasha was the first person. The second person is going to be number 14, is going to be Sherelle Easter. Okay. All right, next up, it's going to be 13. And they do not need credit management services. All right. Number 33 does not need them either. All right. Let's see. Oh, that's back to Miss Easter again. All right. All right. The next person is Miss Jamelia Gates. Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing this down as I go. And the last person is Miss Latoya James. So congratulations to all of our winners. I do want to just say thank you all for bearing with us. I'm trying to get this started. You know, of course, technology gives us a little headache sometimes, and it's not always as fast as we want it to be. However, I do want to also invite you all to attend our next meeting. If I can pull it up, can you guys see that?
Budgeting basics. Yes, get us together with the credit and the budgeting. Yes, come through.
So next will be budgeting basics, and this will be with Tashana Pulliam. We are just trying to get to a place where we are financially sound to make these decisions that will better affect our family and our culture moving forward. So I do invite all of you to attend this next workshop, which is November 9th. If you notice, it's also on a Thursday, same time period. So we just want to create some consistency. We do ask that you share your knowledge of what you learned today with your social media platforms, tagging us, hashtag Erie's Black Wall Street. And then if you could put, you know, the other hashtag as Know Your Score, we would greatly appreciate this. And just, you know, comment on how much you learned, what you learned, and then we will be having a recording of this. It did start recording a little bit later into the video, but last thing I wanted to do is just share a poll with you guys. And the last poll is just a review. And so if you guys could fill that out, I would greatly appreciate it. So I'll be giving a few more moments for this poll. However, I do want to once again say thank you. The results of the poll are amazing. Everybody has learned something. Everybody has enjoyed this workshop and will tell a friend about it and will attend more workshops. So we did, like I said, we had 32 people register on this workshop, and we're hoping to see those numbers increase. One thing that really bothered me is that Erie was ranked, you know, the worst place for Blacks to live in 2017. Erie was listed as having having the poorest zip code in America, 16503. That was just last year, I do believe. And then we just made the list of, we made number 515 out of 515 of the slowest growing cities in America. And so we want to stop making those lists. And the only way we can do that is not only, you know, if our white counterparts are succeeding in our city, we all have to succeed in order for us to get off of those lists. So the community as a whole has to do better. So that is the goal of Erie's Black Wall Street, is to get us to a level of Black excellence that we can better our community as well. So I want to thank you once again, and everyone have a great evening.
Thank you, Kyra.
Thank you. Thank you, Kyra. Thank you, Devonna. You guys keep doing great work.
Thank you. Thank you, Latrice, so much.
Thank you, Kyra.
Kyra.